Hello and welcome. Happy New Year and welcome to the first Cloud Foundry Community Advisory Board call of the year, January 20th, inauguration day in the US. Good luck, everyone. I see Chris is here. Are there any highlights or updates from the Cloud Foundry Foundation this time around?
Couple minor ones. Well, one, we just did that CLA switch. I think that went well, actually, and I think everyone's been sorted out. But of course, if anyone is having any issues with the new CLA, just reach out and let me know. Other bit of non-news is we will probably let you all know in about a month about events this year. I can tell you right now that there are no plans to do in-person events this year. Even in the fall, that's not going to be in the cards. So. But probably in a month or so, we'll have dates for a first Cloud Foundry Summit of some kind. We have a meeting today a little bit to start discussing such things with the events team. But so nothing particularly surprising or newsworthy there. We're working on that, and stay tuned. In another month or so, hopefully we'll have tentative dates or something, but should be somewhat similar to the summits we did last year, as we're not going to be doing in-person events for fairly obvious reasons. So yeah, that's really it. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Just getting this down. So the CLA switch went well. Thanks for bugging me about that. I got my part done. Are there still any people outstanding that you know of?
I mean, the major contributing companies are all signed and squared away. And I've just had a few, pings here and there, but people are pinging me on Slack. We're getting everyone set up. So at this point, I think, it's been relatively quiet as far as people telling me their pipelines are breaking and things like that because bots aren't approved.
Cool.
So that's good news.
I may as well just share the document as well. In the link, you will find the agenda document. In the chat, you will find the link for the events document. To that end, Eric's been so kind as to include all the PMC updates already, so I don't have to type furiously. Do you want to run through them, Eric?
Yeah, sure. Things are still light coming out of the holidays, but the integration project teams both making their usual progress. Roland had another minor update to CF deployment. And they're about to release a version 2.0 of CF Arcades. There's a breaking interface change. I think they're removing one of the certificate values and trying to stick to semantic versioning for that contract. I know they've also been resolving some regressions that were noted recently around environment variables propagating correctly to apps, but those should be out soon. And kubectl is also, they've been bumping dependencies recently, and they're working towards another minor version, which I guess would be 2.8. And then, as has been a common theme, CAPI and Services API teams, they continue to close out the remaining v3 endpoints that are analogous to the v2 Service API endpoints. So I think they are legitimately almost done, although I look forward to being able to say that they're finally done with that track of work, and that v3 replacements for all the v2 APIs are finally in place. I believe CLI is also doing some work to keep up with them as they keep adding those endpoints and to give them feedback on them, although there hasn't been a new CLI release since last month. And then another couple component team updates. I know Irene, they've been exploring some things for new tracks of work. We've talked about their interest in consolidating some things on CRDs for some of their internal resources, but I think they're also looking at observability. And then they also have been, maybe a little prematurely, removing some of their capability of doing staging tasks. And with some of the incompatibilities that we have between the Pacato Cloud Native build packs and the existing CF build packs, that's put kubectl in
I was really glad to see that they're reconsidering that and that they are maybe bringing back the classic staging so that kubectl gets unblocked.
Yeah, I think the shortest term thing might be to restore that. So they're at least exploring and considering doing that. I know some of us have also discussed what it would be like to put the existing CF build packs in a Cloud Native build pack wrapper. And apparently that is the easy direction, but I don't think there's a reference implementation of that available anywhere. So that might be the longer term approach to greater cross compatibility.
Yep. I think that would be a really great bridge for CF deployment users looking at CF for K8s or CubeCF.
Yeah,
To have
and
that
then
transitional.
fun fact from the Diego team, they bumped to Golang 1.15. I guess Golang decided to get stricter about some of its HTTP encodings, especially with respect to chunk to transfer encoding. So they had to tweak the encoding of the VBS event stream to accommodate that. I don't think it should affect anyone, except for the people that bumped their clients to Golang 1.15 and then noticed that they couldn't consume the event stream anymore.
Okay, great. That's good to know. I'll ask again, anyone from the Bosch team have any updates there? Okay, we'll assume that everything is fine and relatively unchanged. Same with extensions. I haven't had a lot of stuff in from the extensions PMC, but I should mention that there's a Stratos 4.4 release, which is very similar to the 4.3 release, but some bug fixes and stuff. The release notes are up there in the Stratos releases section of the repo, if anyone wants to check it out. It's a pleasure to use as always. I'm in that interface almost every day, and it just keeps getting better. So those are our updates. I'm blazing through really quick in case anybody wants to tune into the inauguration later, but I do want to call out a couple of documents that have come from Bernd. Did you want to actually, since I noticed you were on the call?
I have just one short question in between, especially to Eric. Are there already some timelines regarding the CF API v2, let's say deprecation announcements, etc., when this is going to start? Because I get asked very, very often about those questions.
I think that there have been some previous communications about the expected timelines for deprecating the v2 API. Although I believe also those were published a long time ago. It's probably worth revisiting them for relevance now that we're actually at the end of introducing all the v3 equivalents.
Okay, so I think the clock didn't start ticking yet on.
No, and I don't think they're quite done either yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there's still a few endpoints to finish up.
Okay, thanks.
There's also some performance issues that need to be cleaned up in the V3 interface as well.
Oh yes.
I think that may have helped extend the life of the V2 API. We've noticed that as well. And speaking of Stratos, Stratos 4.4 still has not broken ground on the V3 API, so that is still a consumer of it. When you add a CF endpoint, it's still on the V2 API. Any more questions?
Eric, do you know if the bionic stem cells might become out of beta mode?
I don't know for sure. I haven't been tracking recent updates around those.
Have we got bionic stacks now?
Yes, because CF Linux FS3 is already bionic.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I lose track of Ubuntu naming schemes.
I think Mark Croft has been gone for a while, but I believe he was the original person who generated the CF Linux FS2 name. So we can keep blaming him for confusion between.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. In the community projects, presentations, and discussions section, I thought I'd bring to light some things we've been discussing in conversations with SAP and IBM, as well as on these CF for Kubernetes SIG. Bernd, did you want to talk about these things? And they're linked from the document here. I'll show them. We've got first the thoughts on CF for K8 use cases, which was discussed in yesterday's SIG call.
Yeah, right. So actually, those are like this particular document is one that I sent out to the CF Dev mailing list somewhere in December, I believe. There was a bit of discussion also via the mailing list as well as here in the document. And I guess I won't be repeating the SIG call that we had yesterday. I think the recording should be up either already or anytime soon. But to give you like a brief summary of what's in the document, this is essentially something that like we from an SAP perspective expecting to run quite a few CF for Kates deployments, kind of moving over time, people that are today using CF on VMs, that we think are kind of good evolutionary steps once we have like feature parity, so to speak. Those would be good evolutionary steps to kind of make it easier for us operating these many environments to kind of keep track of them, manage them, run them, etc., etc. So I think the primary idea there is to different from what we have today, which is running the Cloud Foundry control plane and CF apps on the same Kubernetes cluster. The main idea there is to basically say, can we separate those into different clusters? And then based on that, there's a couple of follow-up steps that are described in that document. And in the SIG call yesterday, we spent almost the entire hour kind of going over the document and then having a follow-up discussion. Yep. So if you are interested in CF for Kates, kind of mid to long-term topics, and haven't seen the document, you might wanna go through it. And it's obviously still open for feedback and discussions.
Now this other one, which you've graciously given me co-author credit for, which is not deserved. Bernd actually wrote this one up as well, pretty much solely. And I don't think this has been shared with the SIG, right. But it is certainly public information. It's just observations of the things that aren't the same in CF, CF deployment and CF for K8s. Whereas and kubecf trying to follow CF deployment and include as much as possible. There are some differences there as well, but primarily this document is tracking the differences with CF for K8s. Just surfacing it here so people can have a look at it. And I guess we're looking for comments here as well, or comments would be welcome.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you said, Troy, I haven't shared this broadly yet. I think that there's probably also some follow-ups that Eric, Simon, and you want to do in terms of kind of taking your own lists and trying to see if everything is captured in there, or if we need to amend and restructure the document. So I guess it isn't probably ready for prime time in the sense that I would send it over the CFDev mailing list already, but it's definitely in a shape that to the best of my knowledge, at least, it kind of tries to capture all differences between the VM-based world and CF for Kates.
Yeah. So with the strong caveat that this is very much a work in progress, people are welcome to read it and see that that's in flight.
Amended, like if you have items or if you've noticed items that are missing from there, more than happy to actually integrate those.
Great. Okay, I am very grateful to Stefan, who has offered to highlight his feature narrative for us here. It's been a while since I've seen a feature narrative come through, and this is a great place to just get an overview of this sort of thing. Stefan, did you want to have a word about it?
Yeah, sure, of course, and thank you for that opportunity here. Yeah, first of all, maybe, so what did happen last year in December, I made a proposal for a new feature, which is this document here. So fine granular custom platform roles for Cloud Foundry. So why this proposal? Well, on our platform, on our Cloud Foundry platform, we have a lot of customers. Got a lot of feedback, and this proposal addresses two aspects which we hear quite often from our customers. And the first problem what we have is that with the CLI, it did happen quite often that customers delete data by accident. And they can easily do that by just making a call, delete service instance. And that's one thing that we hear quite often by customers. And it really depends, of course, on the use case. But for some customer, this operation, this operation which is executed accidentally, can cause on one hand side a lot of effort, and sometimes it's also very expensive for them, or both together. So this is one thing that customer really hurts. The second thing is that customers they have all different kind of operation models, how they operate and run their applications on Cloud Foundry. But one issue is that also with the space developer role, they first of all want to address to support their running applications. Means so they have kind of operation models where people have to just ensure that the application is working. Sometimes they have to restart, do manual actions and things like that. And usually these people are more or less operation people. They are often not owner of the application, but they need a space role for to be able for doing that activities. And one thing which is a problem is that they can also look into the environment variables of the application, and by that they see all the VCAP service environment entries, and with that they get also access to credentials. These credentials usually or sometimes are very sensitive. Means there's kind of backing services hosting important data, let's say it like this, and then people which have more or less operation role will get access to that. And this is also something which customer do not accept. And now we are thinking about how to address that or how to handle that. And we came to conclusion that there is no easy way to work around about that. So we tried out. First of all, there are some restrictions. Means we are talking here not about new customers. We are not talking about customers, let's say, which are close to our organization, where we can do things like educate the people or things like that. This is really inhomogeneous amount of customers, which you cannot control, where you do not know what they are doing here, but they make this experience. And with that, we don't see any way to work around that. Came to conclusion we should change something here in implementation. And when we had some discussion on what we can do, and of course, the basic requirement is that we need a permission, a powerful and flexible permission model. There was in the past the so-called PERM project, which did perfectly address that requirement, but unfortunately that was put to sunset, so it's not an option. So we tried. We had a discussion what could be a minimal change to address the issues of the customers. Came to conclusion maybe it would be an option to introduce 2 new roles to the cloud controller, which are tailored to address only these 2 use cases. Also with let's say with a background and asking ourselves what could be realistic, what is something that can be implemented. So the idea was not to introduce or to ask for the PERM project again. So we had discussion on what could be the minimal change. Now the proposal is about to introducing 2 new roles. One is called Space Application Developer. The other is called Space Operator. naming is, let's say, I would keep that open. There was also already feedback on the document about that. It's something that needs to be discussed. And so that's the overall scope. Now I'm asking myself, how can we go forward, or what could be the next step with that proposal? So I think what I would expect is something like, can we come to conclusion to, or let's say to result like, yes, the proposal makes sense. Maybe it needs to be discussed more in detail, and yeah, so maybe some parts maybe should change or so. There is already feedback about that, and or it could be also that there's a kind of decision, no, makes no sense, there's no option, we don't want it, whatever. So a yes or no decision, yes. And because of, it depends on that decision, how we continue on that. So let's say if you get an agreement on, yeah, makes sense, then it would also make sense, let's say, to focus more on the proposal, start discussions with required people and so on. Yeah. So this is what I want to bring in here.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on that?
I think we probably have, how many people are here? They probably have 5 opinions on this.
Yeah.
I know I've hit this problem as well. I know the Stratos team deliberately put in an extra step for service deletion because they were encountering people accidentally deleting services because it was very easy to do. But still, it didn't address the underlying problem that there's permission to do it. And I do think these are slightly separate problems. Maybe they could be separated. I think this is a fine proposal, but I wonder if maybe this particular one could be handled even more easily with a feature flag for allow for application space developers permitted to create delete services or not, or maybe allowed to create but not delete. This
feature flag, is this something that can be configured per org, or is this something which, let's say, is only possible globally?
That's a good question.
Because of that sounds very interesting.
Good question. Yeah, feature flags per org would possibly solve this. The other way we
role, right? Feature flags are usually global.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like that might just be org or even space-wide configuration that could apply.
Okay, so there's I'll have to take this back and think about it a bit more. The other one I have also hit with customers who have varying degrees of security requirements, right? Like for certain databases with personally identified information, application developers don't get the credentials and they aren't supposed to see those.
Yeah.
And typically that has been solved by not using OSBAPI to provision those databases. So for production databases, using CredHub or some other sort of credential store and basically working around the normal CF create service, bind service flow. When I was discussing that was a couple of years ago with a customer who really needed that. We also talked about encrypted credentials within the environment, which might be another solution for how to do that. And so the developer can see the encrypted, when they look at the environment variables, they can see the encrypted variable, but somehow they do not have direct access to the key to decrypt that the application would. I don't know how, I don't know if we ever figured that out. I think it was just an idea we floated. And it might have been more obfuscation than actual encryption, but it was one of the things that was floated. So at least you didn't have shoulder surfing problems where somebody sees a password and can.
Troy, there's some of that being done in the CAPI interface, where the password's encrypted, but they can't decrypt it. There's some coding that's in that interface that does that already. So that was something we just did some research on.
Okay, in the what interface?
In the CAPI interface, in the cloud API interface, where it displays gets back some data. It has the ability to encrypt the data. What you get back is an encrypted string, but it's not decrypted because the key is in the. You don't have the key to decrypt it.
Okay. No, that's kind of what I was talking about. I don't know how that solves the problem.
I'll point you at some documents that we got together on that.
If the app has SSH access, or the app itself could surface environment variables like a simple and bind to the service and then
this is for the logs, right?
I see.
So I'm just saying there's possible code that could be reused. Is what I'm getting at.
So I remember there was one proposal to solve the credential issue that was the use of CredHub, and then you only see CredHub passes in your environment and in VCAP services. But I guess this got little traction, at least. I'm not aware of any service broker that supports this model. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, also the applications have to be changed to go there. Yep. I mean, it would be maybe a feasible way for, let's say, such critical things, because then you can expect that applications have to do something, but at least the service broker have to support this model. You have to somehow switch it on. And I don't know about the future about CredHub in CF4K, etc. Just a moment, please.
Yeah. CredHub's in kubectf, and I don't actually use it this way, but we put it in there for this exact reason. But this was not coupled to brokered services. This was coupled to user-defined services or pre-existing services, which were then the credentials were stored in CredHub and then were accessible from the application. I've never actually used it, so I don't know how it works, but. My initial feedback, and again, Stefan, I'm going to think about this some more, is that these might be separate problems. This space application developer and space operator looks like a straightforward fix to the basic problem and does cover them both. But I wonder about the popularity of expanding the number of roles. Because that's then we'd be up to 5 with auditor and an admin, or auditor and manager. But yeah, let's.
Yeah, but so to let's say, you will end up in multiplying all use cases, and as many roles you maybe will get, and of course that's not the goal of the proposal. To come into that situation. So this is why we would like to restrict only 2 only, not more. Just because of the use case, because we would like to address a real customer issue. We would not solve the problem of having more flexible role concept in Cloud Foundry yet. Mm-hmm. For I would say for Kubernetes, maybe this is something that should be rethinked.
Yeah, I don't. The solution doesn't immediately come to mind. I'm just throwing out ideas. I am not a expert, but thank you for surfacing this. If we could all take a look at this and actually carry it on to people that we know who might care about this stuff. There might be people in the OSBAPI group who have opinions on this. Some of our colleagues who aren't in this call might also wish to express an opinion. So everyone find the thread. This is on CFDev as well. There's discussion going on there. Let's all see if we can solve this problem as a community in a sensible way.
I would appreciate that. And Troy, also thanks for the ideas that you dropped in.
Yeah.
I will take them and have a deeper look on that to see if we can achieve something like that. And of course, then also reply the mailing list or so, if he finds out something better.
Would it be useful to have a custom RBAC scope to user, like be for an admin to be able to create a role, which is then they could define which of these are enabled and disabled.
Yeah, I think that's effectively the point of the Perm project.
Okay.
Is that it was going to allow for creating those more customized rules, along with more granular breakdown of any of those permissions. And really the main impediment to moving forward with it in a timely fashion was all the complexities of the V2 Cloud Controller API. I recall that we got an integration done with all the V3 API endpoints within Cloud Controller very easily. And then like Cloud Controller and the Perm team and maybe even UAA hit all the V2 machinery, and things just ground to a halt.
I see.
So there's maybe the possibility of even revisiting that effort with, now that V3 is on the advent of being complete, and you could have environments where you turn off V2, or maybe those rules don't apply, or some external integration doesn't apply. But I think also now the technological landscape has changed a lot in the past, 2.5 years since Perm started. And so it's probably worth reevaluating the need for that and any kind of technical implementation from the ground up.
Okay. So it might not be a quick solution.
Right. Yeah.
But and that's news to me. I did not follow the Perm project at all, so this is good background. Okay, so evangelize this feature narrative so we can get some more ideas, and maybe look for ways that this could be a non-disruptive implementation in CF to solve this problem for the users that have it. Okay. Is there anything else for open discussion?
No, thank you.
No. Does anyone want to go turn on the news and see what's happening? I kind of do.
Not really.
I told Ashley I'm actually double booked on another meeting at the moment, so I am going to, if there's nothing else.
The band is playing right now.
Okay, that's encouraging.
I love you all. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, Wayne. Okay. Thanks everyone, and thanks Ashley for recording this and being there as always.
Thanks, Troy.
Cheers, everyone.